I just watched Josh Scorcher, the Fiery Joker, Firebrand's review of My Little Pony, the movie. And I watched and skimmed a little bit through I Love KP's a lot. I Love KP's I Love KP a lot's review of it. And I've also seen other people talk about it. Silver Quill has talked about it. Other people have talked about other bronies and Pegasisters, members of the cafe, the Rift Cafe and Secret Rift Cafe, have all talked about this. And even though a majority of them will come out and say that it is a good movie, and it is fitting for the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic franchise, that there seems to be something that plagues it. Now, for me, I stand by what I said in my spoiler and non-spoiler review videos, as well as my live reaction video I did immediately after I got out of the theater after watching it on opening day. So I stick by all what I said, and I'm sure everybody sticks by what they said. I'm sure everyone else that's reviewed it and talked about it sticks by what they said. But I think the one problem that plagues it, just by now looking and watching and hearing what other fans, established hardcore fans, bronies, Pegasisters, members of the cafe have said, I think the one thing that bugs them a lot, and I can pretty much see this, is the story itself. Now, Hasbro, DHX Media, Megan McCarthy, and all of them have pretty much come out and said that the movie takes place between Season 7 and the upcoming Season 8. And that is believable, seeing as though you get some elements in there from the movie, like Sequestria, you get Silverstream, which is a sea pony hippogriff, and several others. You get all that. But even though that's the exception, the one thing that bugs the one thing that a lot of these fans that have given the movie a positive review overall plagues the movie, is the story itself feels like it doesn't take place. It doesn't feel like it takes place between the most recent season and the upcoming season. No, it feels like a story that takes place around between seasons 3 and 5, maybe 6 if you will, but mostly through seasons 3 and 5. That's how it feels. And there's good reason why some people feel that way. There is a good reason for that. Because when you look at how Twilight reacts to her friends going into like the end of the second act and into the third act, and how she just finally lets all that frustration get to her and she just blows up unintentionally and regretfully against her friends. A lot of people, like what Josh says in his review, a lot of people don't buy that is how Twilight really is in the more recent seasons. What they see with that is Twilight from previous seasons, like seasons 3 to 5. Like, that's a Twilight that would react like that between seasons 3 and 5, maybe a little bit of 6, but mostly seasons 3 and 5, more so than she has recently. Now, I'm not saying that Twilight wouldn't blow up in recent seasons. We kind of see her get angry with Flurry Heart in Flurry of Emotions. We see her get angry in Once Upon a Zeppelin. So yeah, she is prone to still do that, but not as much. And ironically, if you notice it, she doesn't really do that towards her friends in the more recent seasons as much as she does in previous seasons. Which is why a lot of people have a problem with the story in a sense, because it's like what you're seeing story-wise, the Twilight you're seeing written into the story here is a Twilight of previous seasons. So that's understandable. It's like, my honest opinion is, I think a lot of them would have preferred had the movie been a true in-between kind of story for seasons 7 and 8, and you wouldn't have to have someone like Twilight act the way she did. Another thing that some people point out is some of the decisions her friends make. Some of the decisions they wouldn't make as much anymore today. I'm not saying they wouldn't, pretty much the upcoming season might indicate a little bit of that happening at times, but not as much. In previous seasons, like I said, like the earlier seasons, yeah, that's more of an indication, but not recently. You see, that's what I'm saying. Not recently. Like, for example, Rainbow Dash doing her Sonic Rain Boom, at the conclusion of the awesome, Time to Be Awesome song. It's like, that's a Rainbow Dash that would do something like that between seasons 3 and somewhat between seasons 3, 4, 5, and some parts of season 6. Because we kind of saw her do something similar, not Rain Boom wise, but we saw her do something similar in Newbie Dash, when she tried to basically do her own thing, kind of show up her new teammates, her new Wonderbolt teammates. The point is, Rainbow Dash doing something like the Sonic Rain Boom can play into, Rainbow Dash just being Rainbow Dash, not really thinking of the consequences at first of her actions. But, even though that plays into Rainbow Dash at times, that plays more into Rainbow Dash of previous seasons and not between seasons 7 and 8. Again, not saying that the characters can't go back into those kind of, having those kind of moments. It's more along the lines of the fact that you would see something out of Rainbow Dash doing something like that more so than you would in recent seasons, like between season 7 and 8. I mean, if we see season 7, Rainbow Dash can make some mistakes during that season, I think. I think she does. I gotta go back and look at it. Kind of look through some episodes. But through a majority of it, she doesn't. As far as I know. She doesn't really make many mistakes, as far as I know. Not as big as the Sonic Rain Boom that she did in the movie. Because that's more along the lines of a previous season's version of Rainbow Dash. Rarity, on the other hand, is Rarity. Rarity is bound to make mistakes, even to recently. She's bound to make mistakes. But more so of the Rarity that trusted Capper is more reminiscing of a Rarity that tried to get Tenderhoof to notice her. More of a Rarity from like the end of season 1 when she tried to get that Prince Blue Blood to notice her. That's the Rarity that in a sense was portrayed here. It's like she allowed herself to be smitten by the charms of Capper that she didn't see what Twilight was seeing. And that is one positive some people will give. At least Twilight was able to see through Capper's persona or fakeness or whatever at the time. So basically the Rarity that trusted Capper was more along the lines of the first couple of seasons versions of Rarity. Pinky, on the other hand, is Pinky, no matter what season in a sense. But more so what you got here with Pinky again was a Pinky of previous seasons. Now, like I said, I'm not saying Pinkie Pie nowadays isn't that way. There are several examples and scenarios that she is, but not as much as previous seasons. Again, I can't say what she's going to be like in season 8, but again, but what I'm saying is what you got in the movie was more along the lines of a Pinkie Pie between seasons 1, between the first 5 seasons in a sense. That was the Pinkie Pie you were getting. More so between, like I said, seasons 3 and 5. 5, if anything. That was the Pinkie Pie you were getting. You weren't getting a Pinkie Pie from season 7. You weren't getting a Pinkie Pie from season 6. You were getting a Pinkie Pie that was more reminiscing of the first 5 seasons. Again, I'm not saying season 6 or 7 didn't have Pinky be the way she be, as she was somewhat in the movie, as she was in the movie in a way, but more so along the lines of, because she was. I mean, you take a look at Shadow Play, in a sense, you take a look at season 6 and the Gift of the Mod Pie, stuff like that. You kind of get those ideas. You kind of see that Pinky still is Pinky. And you might say, well, Pinky didn't change that much in the movie, or wasn't that much different in the movie. And you're right. But the point is, you got more of a Pinkie Pie from the first 5 seasons, if not more so, between seasons 3 and 5, than you would recently. I guess the point I'm trying to get at, and I think a lot of people are like, get on with it, telling me get on with it, is the reason people have a problem with the way the characters like Twilight and members of the main 6 are portrayed is because they're being portrayed as the previous seasonal counterparts between seasons 3 and 5, if not the first 5 seasons. That's how they're being portrayed. They're not being portrayed as if what you would see them in season 7 and 6, in a sense. But you're mostly seeing them being portrayed from the first 5 seasons, if not the previous 4 seasons before season 7. That's what you're getting. You're not seeing, a Twilight or a Rarity or a Pinkie Pie or a Rainbow Dash from season 7. You're seeing, or somewhat season 6, you're seeing a Pinkie Pie, Rarity, Twilight, and Rainbow Dash from seasons 3, from the first 5 seasons, if not more so from seasons 3 to 5. And the reason for that is because, and the reason for that, folks, is that's because and the reason I'm trying to get at, folks, is that's because between seasons 3 and 5, that's when the movie was being developed. The movie was announced around 2000. The announcement and indication a movie was coming was announced around 2013 and 2014. So it only makes sense that when the script started to be written at that time, that basically they would use the characteristics of the characters of those seasons. That they wouldn't say, okay, they wouldn't go. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not saying a script can't be changed last minute, but in this case, the movie was already in production, in pre-production script, which was like script development, stuff like that, all the way back to seasons 3, 4, and 5. That's why you had the characters portrayed the way they were. They were being portrayed as those seasons 3 to 5 counterparts instead of what you got recently. And that is the problem that plagued the movie from start to finish. Not from start to finish, but plagued it at times. I was just checking how long I've gone here so far, because I know some people don't like to sit through a long video. But the point is that's the reason in some people's eyes, even though they would give the movie an overall positive review, is one of the problems that plagued the movie was you were portraying the characters as the previous counterparts between seasons 3 and 5, if not the first 5 seasons. You weren't saying, okay, let's rewrite, we've done the animation, but let's rescript this to make it feel more up to date. That's the problem. That's the thing they didn't do. They didn't script it to where, okay, let's rewrite some parts in the movie to where the characters are more up to date to who they are now, or how they're portrayed now in the series, than what they were previously. But as we could see, that wasn't the case. Again, not saying that didn't take away from the enjoyment of the movie, my enjoyment of the movie. I stick by, like I said, everything I said. The positive feedback I gave it. But the point is, when you tend to write a character based on a previous incarnation of them, or previous seasonal incarnation of them, and you decide to not rewrite, and you decide not to go back and rewrite the script or kind of tweak it a bit to where the character feels more updated, more like what you just saw in a recent season or so, that's going to cause problems. Because just like with Twilight, a lot of fans were basically saying this isn't the Twilight of season 7 or even season 6. This is a Twilight of like season 4, 3, and 5, if not the first 5 seasons. And again, that's because the script and the movie were in pre-production around those seasons, around seasons 4, 3, and 5. That's why we got the characters the way they were. Was that a good move on Hasbro's part? Well, if they would have released the movie after season 5, I've ended, then yes, that would have made more sense, because in a way it would have been more updated and more up to date with the previous seasons. Releasing it now kind of feels like you're just confusing some new fans, some casual moviegoers that may have had to get some research and information on the characters, and even the established fans. It confuses them because it feels like you've just rewound these characters back to the previous incarnations from previous seasons, and it doesn't. And to them, even though the movie overall is good, certain characteristics and actions by the characters don't fit in. To them it feels like this belongs more in a previous season from like a couple of years ago than a more recent season. I'm just saying. I mean, this is why a lot of people at times would have preferred Shadow Play to be the feature film instead of this. Because pretty much the Twilight in there, the Twilight makes a mistake and she regrets it, but she's not lashing out on Starlight. She's not lashing out on her friends for what's going on. And that pretty much is why some fans, even though, like I said, love the movie overall, feel that the one thing that holds it down is basically you've written and kept in versions of the characters that I mentioned that were portrayed in previous seasons. And if you're going to do a movie that's supposed to take place between the more recent season and the more recent upcoming season, you can't do that. You basically got to make sure that the movie is in sync, in a sense, with those seasons, and that the characters are in sync with the characteristics and interpretations of those seasons. Again, overall, the movie is good. It's great. I stick by what I've said, and so does everybody else. Everybody else sticks by what they said when they give it a positive review. But the one thing that they feel holds it down is you have the character that basically the Twilight, Rarity, and Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie that are portrayed in this movie are incarnations and interpretations from previous seasons. Like I said, between seasons 3 and 5, if not the first 5 seasons. And you can't really do that if you're trying to line this movie up to be in sync with your more recent season and your most recent upcoming season. So to me, that is the one major problem that plagues the movie. Overall, I stick by what I said in my spoiler and non-spoiler reviews of it. It's a great film, probably one of the best, no doubt about it. 10 out of 10, 5 stars. But after watching what other people have had to say, from Josh Scorcher and all of them, basically I will agree that the one thing that holds it down, and the one problem that plagues it in their eyes, and I see it as well, is the characteristics that you're portraying. The 4 characters that I've mentioned from Twilight, Pinkie, Rainbow, and Rarity are characteristics and interpretations from the first 5 seasons, if not seasons 3 to 5. And if they didn't do that, I think the movie wouldn't get as much, would probably have gotten a more positive review from a lot of the bronies and Pegasisters in the community. So, again, I'm not saying nothing's wrong with the movie. It's great. But I think after watching what other people have had to say, I kind of see where they're coming from with what the main problem that plagues the movie is. So, that's all I'm going to say on it, folks. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll talk to y'all later.